Hey crew, it's Pitt, and I'm back with another MBTI determination. Today's is a little bit special. I don't normally do this on the MBTI videos, but I really do like exposing my crew to new people. And there's a good chance that many of you don't read a whole lot. And if you do, you don't read fantasy a whole lot. But if you read fantasy and you are not aware of this author, you're going to want to get a hands on some of his books. I personally do not buy new books. I buy used books. I'm a poor person. And so I buy books that people get rid of. I have bought in the last 2 decades 6 books brand new. 4 of them have been from this author right here, and I am heavily anticipating the release of the 5th, and where I will be getting my 3rd hardcover. I never buy hardcovers brand new because this is a really, really interesting mind that we're going to be delving into today, and that is Mr. Brandon Sanderson. It is on his appearance from the Travis Gafford's podcast, and we are going to look at him for some examples today. This is not a medical diagnosis. I am not a medical doctor. We are simply looking for examples for our own self-improvement. We are trying to find examples in other people, in the way that they think and communicate, so that we can try to figure out some things about ourselves. How do we do that? Through the MBTI system, which I have changed quite a bit. This is not the way you have seen MBTI done before. I use these 5 questions to determine where you would fit in these boxes. It's not nice to put people in boxes, but sometimes it works out all right, and this system seems to work fairly well. The way that we do that is we ask these 5 questions. We say, are you things or ideas? Do you focus on the here and now, the physical and the sensation from now into the past, or the actual things you can put your hands on, right? The physical objects or sensations from now into the past? Or do you focus on the ideas and the concepts from here into the future? Do you look for new ones, or are you sorting through old ones? Is it all about, hey, look at all of this shiny, or is it about this very specific shiny? Do you do that for yourself or for the tribe? Self does not mean selfish. It means that you use it first and then you give it away. Tribe means that you give it away to the tribe and then you get your value out of it. Rigid and flexible. Is it my way or the highway? Or can we accommodate some other people's ideas and things? And finally, direct and informative. Do you give the whole story and stop? Or do you give the whole story 3, 4 times? Chase a couple of rabbit holes along the way. All of that plays together into bring us into a specific type so that we can see where some weaknesses might lie in ourselves. Now we're going to dig in and we're going to look for some examples in Mr. Brandon Sanderson. I should say Professor Sanderson. I have also, by the way, attended 4 of his classes online from BYU Creative Writing. Let's dig in.
You know, one of the things I know you've talked about previously is when you are not usually surprised by fan reception because you have beta reads and all these different things. What is your anticipation for Lost Metal? Do you think that there's going to be any kind of pushback where people are like, hey, this is too much?
I do think that a certain percentage of the audience will push back. Gauging based on the beta reader comments, there were some people that this was a bit too much for. And so I'm anticipating some of that. It was a small voice, and I did what I could to mitigate it. That's why we do the beta reads, so that I'm aware and I can try to, in revision, mitigate it as much as possible. But at the end of the day, it is the story I wanted to tell. So I expect...
That's not a whole lot of flexibility, right? I guess it is, because he's doing the beta reads and he's trying to make the adjustments, but it is about his story.
There will be some people that this isn't quite the right story for them. And that's okay. That's one of the things...
That's flexibility, however. That's accommodating the views, right? It's not your story, that's fine.
You have to get
and some tribe feedback right there.
Used to as a writer is no story is going to be the perfect story for everyone.
Yeah.
You want to make sure your stories are the perfect stories for someone. My editorial VP, Peter, often uses this phrase, Brandon, make sure every chapter is somebody's favorite. It doesn't have to be everyone's favorite. And this is, I think, a good guiding principle in writing. What we don't want are lukewarm books that everyone is like, it was okay.
What we don't want is lukewarm books that everyone was like. That's showing some tribe, right? That's not about what he could have said, what I don't want is for, but he didn't. He threw it back to the tribe. That's unconscious. It's without even really thinking about it. It's more of a tribe focus than a self focus.
You want books that are doing things that inspire a lot of passion from people, and anything that inspires passion is going to inspire it both ways.
Yeah.
Okay, and that is also talking about the ideas and the concepts. Part of that is the content matter of the interview, right? They're talking about a very specific thing, his books, and the process that it comes about. And so we're not going to take that overall as a final determinant, but it definitely plays in.
I was going to ask similar to this, and we'll avoid spoilers for the time being towards the end, but in reading Rhythm, you went pretty in depth into some of the mechanics on certain things in that book, shall we say? Was it? Do you feel like there was a similar situation there, where like, because it goes pretty far in, and I love that stuff, but I do wonder if on your end you saw similar effects where people are like, okay, you're kind of losing me in some of this.
Yeah, I mean, it does happen. It does happen. But writing is all about, like, one of the keys of revision for me. One of the most important parts of it is, like, in your first draft, you're just trying to lay down plot, character, theme, these things. Just get the raw versions of these. Revision is refining, and one of the key things you do is find those places where people get lost and do a better job. It happens a lot in fight scenes. Fight scenes, for me at least, my first drafts, they can often be really hard to track. And I think it's actually kind of, here's a weird metaphor. You ever been to the dentist where you get like a crown put on or something like that?
Yeah.
What they do is they put this like piece of paper thing in your mouth, and you're like, all right, bite down so we can see where the friction points are, so we can then grind the tooth down to make it fit better. That's what a beta read is for me.
That's a very specific, very thing that happens, right? That's not about the idea of getting the mold of the impression. It's about the actual experience. It's the best, worst. It's not bringing in a broad spectrum of them. It's a very specific one. It seems to be in support of the idea, so we may be looking at the NE-SI interaction here. Not firm on that yet. He could be things. He seems to be more about the ideas with the things being the support, but that doesn't necessarily have to be the case.
Find those friction points. Find the places where I thought it was clear, but it's confusing, or where I did something that lost people in any way, whether it's world building or whether it's characterization or plotting, whatever it is. Find those friction points, grind them down, make them work.
Well, while Lost Metal has been anticipated for a while, you have...
That's a little bit of controlling, right? It's accommodating the tribe, but he's tribe-focused, so he's going to. It's very much about a regimented procedure, which leads into the control, right? Lists, things that have to be done in a specific manner lead more towards the control side. It doesn't have to be, you have to listen to me, but more like this, I have to follow this procedure. That's a little bit more on the control side.
Had another story or narrative that came out this year that I think a lot of people were not expecting, which is Moonbreaker.
Yes. We are on a video game channel
and
right
that's
now.
yes, and so that is. I wanted to dive in. We talked about this in the last interview with some of my friends.
Hey, Brandon, you want to write my video game?
About your video game stuff, but now you have one that you've actively contributed to in a very meaningful way. What was the process like working on that?
So it was really interesting. I was working with Unknown Worlds, who made Subnautica. And I thought that their world building...
that was an actual physical experience. I was working with.
Building in Subnautica was pretty solid. They thought that they hadn't done that much. They're like, we don't know what we're doing. And I'm like, yes, you do. You really do. But I have much more of a formalized style for doing this because I've done it. I've written 50 books now. And many of those books are in brand new worlds. And so I said, here's my format. And they're like, great, show us how to do it. And I built them an outline, not a story outline, but a world outline, a world guide as I call it. And I then, built it as a skeleton. And then I filled in all the pieces as I was going. And I did it just like I would write a book. But there was one key difference. And this is that no matter how good the world building is, for a video game, if the gameplay isn't fun, then the world is the game's going to fail. And so I couldn't have any really influence over that, but I could tell them, don't let my world building be the thing that makes you make bad gameplay decisions.
Yeah.
Always understand, I will change the world building to fit good gameplay, no
That's some flexibility.
matter what it takes.
Not about the system, right? But about the content. So that would be.
Because there's that. And in
Because he's rigid about the system. Right? He's not wanting to flex about that. This has been successful. I'm going to ride with this. That couldn't be just experience, but that can be control too. That was a good demonstration of some flexibility around the things, right? That's what it is. It's around the things because he's going to flex his ideas around the things there. So, okay.
narrative, there's a bit of that too, right?
So if it comes down to this, right, the reason why I want to make that distinction is if it comes down to ideas, then he's going to be flexible with the ideas. But if it comes down to things, he's going to be rigid with the things.
World building should, I think, be the third most important behind plot and character. You want
There's some ideas.
your world building to enhance that, not to be a good unto itself. But it was much more so in the video game.
Also, I'm getting a good bit of direct. He's answering the questions. He's answering them fully, but he is not extrapolating. He is not chasing rabbit holes. He is staying very direct on what he's doing.
You've implied in the past that many different companies have reached out to you about potentially collaborating on some sort of video game. Why was this the one that you decided to go for?
It was a couple of reasons. Number one, I like to do different things. A lot of the things I was being pitched were games that were very similar to the games on the market now. Moonbreaker made something that I
I'm not going to self-promote.
hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
And, that's probably its greatest strength and its greatest weakness because video games are very hard to market something brand new. And this was a digital minis game that they pitched and they made. I think it's really fun.
Okay, so that is keep this idea open, right? I've never seen this idea before. Hey, tribe. Hey, y'all see this? Look at this tribe. Look at this new idea. That was that right there.
A digital minis game.
Like, this is the details supporting that new idea. But that was the thing. It was a new idea.
Where you're playing basically something like old HeroClix, small squad-based minis game, but done digitally and with a painting aspect and stuff like that. I just thought it was really different. I didn't make the decision based on what I thought would sell the best, honestly. I based it on what I thought was the most interesting pitch.
Yeah.
What's the best idea?
I had
Keep it open idea. So that's going to lean ideas. That's going to lean new. That's going to lean flexible, right? We talked about that. Like he's rigid with the system, but flexible with the ideas. And he seems to be direct. So this is getting pretty good here.
just played Subnautica.
I'm going to give it just another couple of minutes before we go to the TypeGrid so that we can get a confirmation that this is definitely going to be the keep ideas open over the sort the things, right? We're not getting a lot of things. That's out of the window. We're not getting this one idea. That's out of the window. We're getting several ideas and we're getting good supporting information. Now we're trying to determine which one's the top and which one's the bottom.
Which I thought was really well done. And my children love Subnautica. And so I'm like, I'm going to pick this one.
So I imagine Skyward was a pretty good opportunity for you to kind of train yourself a little bit on sci-fi stuff.
Yes.
I'm curious if this experience was similar for training yourself on video games. And I know you talked before about like it costs a lot of money to make a video game, but I am curious if this is, you're like, hey, this will at least let me dip my toes in the water if you do decide to do something bigger in the future.
Yeah, I think that this was a really good, like, one of the reasons I did this is I'm like, I want to be involved in someone else's video game before I do one of mine.
Yeah.
Right? And I would like to do video games based on my works. I mean, I'm a gamer.
I have the world. Can you see the world over there? Let me see. I have it. I'm just not really good with the details. I'm working on it, but I'm really not good with the details.
I had an Atari 2600 when I was a kid. That's where my entry point was. And I
Okay, so that's the experience.
have lots of ideas for games.
Lots of ideas for games.
I have a really cool idea I've been working on for years that I would love to tell. And I wanted to.
I can do some of the other stuff though, right?
I want to see this world a little bit more. That's kind of just been my philosophy, both in video games and in film and television. I'm like, let me see how they do things before I stomp in and decide.
Let me grab their ideas before I do this. I'm going to let him finish out this answer, and we'll stop before we do the confirmations on the other
to
side.
do it my way.
Well, yeah.
There we go. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the TypeGrid, because you've never seen MBTI done quite the way that I do it. He seems to be ideas. I'm not entirely surprised by that, but I try to keep it open before we actually get evidence of that. And he seems to be about the broad spectrum of ideas. Hey, look at all these ideas. Not, hey, this is the best idea ever. But I have a bunch of them. And so that's going to lead us towards ideas, which is the right side of the screen. It's going to lead us to new, which is the third column. He seems to be externally focused. There was a lot of kick that back to the tribe. He's very much in his groove and comfortable in himself, but he's not giving a lot of, this is for me even. It's about the experience that other people are getting out of it. He seems to be giving it to the tribe and getting his value from it. That's going to lead us towards the E. That's the bottom two rows. He seems to be flexible with the ideas, less so with the system. So that's going to put him with flexible. That's going to be an ENFP. So let's go ahead and pull up the ENFP graphic real quick, and I will transition that over, and we will talk about this final determinant here, the direct and informative. The first two slots are how you receive information. It is how the information comes in and how you feel responsible for it. The next slot is how you give it back. So in the third slot, if you are introverted, that means that you're holding all the information back. You're direct. If in the third slot you are extroverted, you're giving all the information away, right? You're informative. And he seems to be direct. That means that he's going to be introverted in the third slot. That would give us an ENFP alternate. What does that mean? He's going to see the ideas without even thinking about it. It's going to happen naturally. There's a lot of really good information at the top, a lot of really bad information at the bottom. He's going to get all the good information at the top. He's going to see a lot of ideas. That is very evident if you are at all familiar with his work. He's going to be responsible for giving back to the tribe the morals. He's going to be trying to take his understanding of the tribe's ethics and apply them to the ideas. And so your ethics are what your tribe has decided is the thing to do. Your morals are what you have decided about those ethics. And so he's going to be trying to portray what he sees as the moral thing in his responsible slot. He is trying to correct the ideas with his morals. The third eye slot is how you see the path forward. How can I make this happen in my life? And because you see that, you get defensive over it. So what he's going to be defensive over is the system. We've already seen that in a confirmation, like he literally said that. But we'll look for some more confirmations of that going forward. The part that he's going to misunderstand and misinterpret is going to be the throat area, and that is going to be other people's thoughts. The TE is all about what other people are thinking. So it's not that he doesn't know, it's just that he misses. That's why he's got such an extensive beta read process, because he doesn't want to miss it. He's aware that he misses it. This is why, right, the middle two slots get almost no information. It's very low reception unless you are intentional and very good, strong in your stack. The heart is going to be what you want to do with your life. The thing that will most fulfill you. And for him, that is going to be having the best idea, right? He has several best ideas, right? You can have a couple of different best ideas. Mistborn is one best idea. The Oathbringer series, whole different one. And so Those are the best ideas. He is bringing them forth for the tribe, and he is fulfilled. That is a fairly good confirmation straight off the top. The solar plexus is how you feed into that, and for him, that is going to be the ethics. The ethics come from your tribe. Your tribe is not the whole world. It is who you have decided is important. It can be your it can be your family. It doesn't have to be. It can be your work people. It doesn't have to be. It's most likely your best friends, right? These are the people that you choose to be important in your life. And you are going to grab your morals from their ethics. But if he is making the correct ethical stance and leading that into the best idea, is how he will get the most fulfillment out of what he wants to do. The sacral is where you intentionally choose the wrong thing. It is the trickster energy, the sexual energy, and nobody ever says, you know what, I want to do the wrong thing. But people do that all the time. It is because of these two slots. These two slots get very little reception, or they get a good bit of reception, but it's bad information. It's the opposite side of what you should be doing. For him, that is going to be the new experiences. He's probably not overly concerned about getting new things, and when he does get them, it winds up being just a little bit the wrong thing after all, right? He buys a TV thinking it's going to be the best TV, and it's not. He's going to be not as concerned about the other people's sensations as their feelings. He's going to be more concerned with it's about current things and exploration, and it's about getting it wrong unintentionally, right? So he plans a trip to the wrong place, or he goes for the wrong experience. He goes all in on the wrong tribe or the wrong experience. It's kind of hard to explain without specific examples, but that's really where you get messed up, and that is because of the base, right? The base is where the real problems come in, because you get a whole lot of information, an overwhelming amount of information sometimes, but it's mostly wrong, right? Not like you're intentionally choosing wrong. It's just that you're missing something, and so you're choosing the wrong thing. And for him, that's going to be the SETI interflex, right? So the TI is how I think about things. That's the part he's doing wrong. And it's because he's intentionally choosing, like intentionally choosing the wrong thing. And so he's got the experience of making the wrong logical decisions about it. That's, again, very hard to explain without specific examples right there in your face. But that is what it seems like. Now we're going to start looking for some confirmations. We're going to see if the NE is a thing. Are you getting all the ideas? It's fairly obvious that that is happening. Whether you are making the moral choices as your responsibility. Not right now. That just messed everything up. It's going to be what has happened with the organization. Is he getting defensive over that? Now, he has already been defensive over his system, right? He's flexible with the idea, defensive over the system. This is how it needs to happen in order for it to work. That is a confirmation for that slide. We're going to be looking at misunderstanding and miscommunicating other people's thoughts, and we're going to try and see if there's some logical inconsistencies and some SE unintentional wrong choices. Let's go. All right, let's transition.
Yeah, I was going to talk to you about that too, because we were just chatting a little bit before this about Arcane,
yes,
which I saw on the show that you really enjoyed doing. And it feels like to me there's such an interesting confluence occurring right now between like books, with like Witcher and game. You've got games, and you've got like League moving into TV stuff. All like books, games, and television/movies. It feels like there's just this interesting thing that's happening between the three of them.
Well,
and as a creator, I'm curious what you think. Yeah.
For years, the prevailing wisdom was there were no good video game to movie or television adaptations, right? And this kind of even helmed through the Mortal Kombat era, even though the Mortal Kombat movies, some of them were really fun.
Yeah.
Right? There were no great ones. But we can't say that anymore. You named Witcher and Arcane, which I I think both are great, like legitimately great. And Witcher went to books, but here we have Arcane. That I gave it a 10 out of 10. I think it's a fantastic narrative, and so we're at an era where these sorts of things, video games as narrative, are being taken seriously, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we've got the Last of Us being adapted, which is a weird one for me because I feel like The Last of Us doesn't need to be adapted because it already told its story so well.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how Hollywood is, right? It's like, oh, it worked really well. Well, we'll make that. What's really interesting about Arcane is it's like, how do you make this story? Like, I haven't played League a lot. I know. Am I in trouble for saying that?
No. You're fine.
Yeah.
Many people would tell you that's a good idea.
Yeah.
It's got a love-hate relationship that fans
kind
have.
of the thing. Like, I'll watch, video game content. Like, I'll watch Donkey.
Yeah.
And people who played a lot of League of Legends often say, oh, you're. They have a love-hate relationship with it.
Oftentimes they enjoy the game,
Yes.
but they don't enjoy maybe some of the social experiences.
Yes, I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
But regardless, but I've read up on it when Arcane came out, and people are like, "What? There's so many stories, but so much bare bones to them."
Yeah.
And then you have something like that come out, and I think we are, with the streaming services, kind of in this golden age of narrative, particularly kind of the middle form. We used to have short form films and long form television, which was seasons and seasons and seasons. Yeah. And now we've got this middle form, which is self-contained season, miniseries essentially, done very, very well. And
okay, so that was 3 ideas, right? The 3 different services or 3 different ideas. It's not really even about them. It's about the services that they're providing on the upper level. And so there's not been a whole lot of confirmation for much of anything. This is kind of a surface level type of conversation. So,
and I think it's opening.
There's a good bit of him, like, you could take it as him defending the specific things. You kind of have to be trying to do that to get that at this point, and so we're going to look for some more, but that's what it looked like. Like, when he's given the specific instances, like, but you have to really kind of be looking for that to see it.
Opportunities for new storytelling.
Yeah. I mean, as you look at your own work, I assume it must be really exciting to see sort of, again, all of these things converging into something, because it probably gives you some ideas for the future.
It does. Though in some ways it's kind of daunting, right? Like, the gold standard right now for budgets is Lord of the Rings. And everything is going to be compared to it now. And it had like $60 million an episode.
Right.
Which it's like, how do you do something that compares with that? That's also suddenly very daunting. It's like, oh, great. Now,
that's a little bit of defense over the specific example.
Now the gold standard has 5 times the money of everyone else. So it kind of is this odd place that it puts us in.
And that's even a little bit of a moral decision, right? Again, that is very much reading into it, but the decision behind this much money going into this thing removes the competition is kind of a moral decision, but again, reading into it.
If you had to at some point in time make a decision on like where to focus your efforts in terms of either movie, TV show, or video game stuff, I mean, where would you kind of make this?
Pick an idea, Brandon.
Decision.
That's a good question.
As a fun analogy, I've kind of been thinking about these things as the in the terms of realmatic theory, where you have all these 3 things existing against each other. So, yeah, I'm curious where, because you're a gamer at heart, so I imagine that's tempting.
I am a movie buff also.
Oh, that's true. That's
right. So what you're saying is, someone comes to me and says, it's Morpheus. Here are your 2 choices.
Sure.
You take this one, and this one goes away. You can either make a video game, and you have an unlimited budget, and you can do it exactly as you want, or you can make a television show with unlimited budget and do it as you want.
Or, I mean, that's that one, or even just like if these 2 projects sprung up simultaneously, and you have to focus on these because you're writing at the same time. I know.
Right. It's going to depend. Like, I don't think that I have the skill set to write a film. Main reason being, films are short form.
Yeah.
They're like the cinematic equivalent of a short story, which I can do, but I'm not. It's not my skill set.
That's a little bit defensive over the best worst. And that's not even having to read into it.
A television show, having worked on the Wheel of Time, having seen a lot of scripts and things, is my wheelhouse, right? So if it's a film, I think it's better for me to let someone else write the screenplay. If it's a television show, I can write teleplays, right?
Yeah.
I can do long form. You give me 10 episodes, and I can do it myself. Maybe not all of them, because that's a lot, but who knows? I mean, I do like to write a lot.
Yes.
And so that's going to be part of the decision point, right? And what kind of video game are we making? Do I get to do my own cool idea? It would have to be, there'd be a lot of decisions. I think writing a mini-series type thing, the 10-episode premium streaming, if that popped up and I had the right opportunity, I would probably pick that over the video game. But if it were video game versus film, I would probably do the video game.
Someone implied this, that you have this.
Okay, so that is gathering new experiences. I'm not going to make the argument on whether that was the intentional choosing, right? That is very much a personal choice. He does seem, again, to be about the ideas that underlie the whole thing. He didn't dive too deeply into any of the specific ideas. He dove into the specifics of the execution, which is the SI. And he's somewhat defensive over the process, right? That was a lot clearer than the other example of it, but with the two together, it's a fairly good confirmation.
This idea on...
I'm still looking for more, right? There still should be some more. ENFP is kind of hard to get confirmations on because of just the way the stack is built. It's ideas, feelings.
A video game that you'd like to explore at some point in time. Is that, I think a lot of people, when they hear like, oh, maybe a Brandon Sanderson video game, they're like, oh man, Mistborn or Stormlight or something like that. It sounds like maybe this would be something completely out of there.
So having been a gamer, I would want to design a video game that the narrative plays in the strength of video games. I wouldn't want to simply adapt one of my books. Now, that doesn't mean I wouldn't put it in the cost mirror. I might, but I wouldn't limit myself to that. I would want to do a game that I designed to fit the medium, the storytelling, to work with the type of story it is, right?
So let's not narrow down the idea. Let's hold that idea open. That's a fairly good confirmation of having the ENIE divine, right? Keeping the ideas open, not wanting to get down to the one until it's time to get down to the one. And again, he's getting defensive over the actual process.
So I've got several cool ideas that I think would make fantastic...
Several cool ideas.
Narrative.
That's all about how I feel about all these ideas.
Video games, but...
That was a good confirmation there.
We'll see. We'll see if I can ever do it. Someone out there wants to give me, $100 million. If From Software wants to come. I've got my Elden Ring sword there. I would totally be on board.
Yeah, I think it's always been fascinating for me, and I think for a lot.
All right, we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. It seems like a fairly good fit. We can pop it back over and talk about it for just a second. It seems like he is very much about keeping these ideas open, right? We got a good bit of confirmation on that. One very good confirmation on that. And how he feels about it, right? If he doesn't feel good about it, it's not going to happen. He's responsible for how he feels in the situation. Even though he's drop-centered. He's fairly defensive over the process. We've had several examples, both before the typing and in the confirmation, of him being defensive over the process. We didn't really get into a whole lot of other people's thoughts and ideas, right? That didn't really enter into it. That's right there in the middle. The NI, he didn't really want to be changed, making the decision until it's the time to make the decision. That's a good NI middle. And then we didn't get into the logic, right? There was him using an example of logical choices. If I had this A-B decision, then he goes to all of these other things that had to line up that were more to deal with the SI than the SE. So I feel like this is a fairly good fit. So if you feel like you find things in Brandon that you identify with it, you see the way that he talks, you see the way that he absorbs information, gives information back. If you identify with those things and you think that maybe you might be an ENFP too, we have a video right up here in the corner that is for that. The Infinite Integration System is to teach you how, through prayer, fasting, and meditation, to build yourself up in a way that is helpful to you, that you identify things that you don't want in your life and learn how to strengthen those things. This is a toolbox, not a medical diagnosis. This is a framework for you to start building your life in the way that you want your life to go. Hopefully I brought a little bit of enlightenment and not too much confusion. I know that my MBTI system is different. If you came here looking for MBTI, you're like, this makes no sense to me. You definitely should start at the beginning. And if the infinite integration is a little bit too much for you, the MBTI parts is more on just the scientific side of things. To the crew, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you are here with me, and I am praying for you every single day. Until next time, I love you. God loves you. You are perfect, whole, and complete just the way that you are. And this has been Pitt's Take. Peace.